This Valentine's Day, celebrate the one you love the most with Hallmark cards at Walgreens. Valentine's Day is the best time to send your favorite person a reminder of just how much they mean to you. A Hallmark card is a super simple and beautiful way to say how grateful you are for the love you two share. Don't forget, Valentine's Day is Saturday, February 14th. Visit Walgreens today to find a Hallmark card that shows just how much you love them. Because love lives here.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of the Royals Rundown podcast, brought to you by Royals Review. Yes, that's right, it's still me, Jeremy Hokius Greco. Unfortunately, Jacob once again is unable to join me, but hopefully we're going to have him back Sunday. In the meantime, Max did such a great job pinch hitting on Sunday, I brought him back again. We're gonna go 2 for 2, Max.
I'm like Adam Frazier, you know, like you're just gonna keep bringing me back for my veteran presence, and you'll never get rid of me.
I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to. So, a little bit of news happening around baseball over the past few days. Specifically, some big Royals-related news happened late last night. Not directly related to the Royals, but close enough. The Tigers gave out a big deal to Framber Valdez, 3 years, $115 million. I think there's an opt-out in there somewhere, but either way, he's pitching for the Tigers in 2026. And Tarik Skubal won his arbitration case, they announced this morning. So I'm curious. I guess my first question, Max, before we can evaluate how does this affect the Royals, is did they sign Valdez as a replacement for Skubal or as to back Skubal up? Are they getting ready to trade Skubal, or are they going to go, oh, here's Skubal Valdez, good luck, everybody?
No, that's the question. Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they signed Valdez, were like, okay, is this do they know that it's on the eve of their decision for the arbitration hearing? And it turns out Skubal won his case and is going to get paid $32 million. So that's what, $70 million they're paying to two pitchers? I think I saw a stat that the entire Tigers rotation will be paid more than like 3 other teams in the division for their entire rosters. So, you know, the Ilitch family has gone deep in their pockets before with the Tigers, and it would make sense to do so now when they are a team that's been, made the playoffs in each of the last 2 seasons with a pretty good core, but been bounced before making the World Series. And, Valdez makes them, I think, a serious contender. But if they trade Skubal now, maybe he's a replacement for Skubal, and they get, a mess of prospects for Skubal because they know they can't sign him long term. So I'm curious to see. I kind of think they'll hang on to him and, go and see how they compete. And then, if they're out of it, then you can trade Skubal at the deadline. He'll still have tremendous value unless he gets hurt. And if even if you hold on to him all year, you've got that qualifying offer that at least give you some compensation. But, if I'm the Tigers, I kind of want to push my chips all in and say I'm going to roll with this team with these, 2 of the best starting pitchers in baseball. And I feel like I can go head toe-to-toe. And we talked about this last time on the podcast, like, when you get to a short series and you have 2 dominant starting pitchers or 2 dominant starting pitchers, and they've got some other good pitchers as well, Casey Mize, and Jack Flaherty, you've got a chance to win a short series, and you can kind of paper over a lot of deficiencies in your lineup by just having a guy who's really dominant for 7-8 innings. So interesting move.
It's not like their lineup is bereft of talent either. They've got a few guys led by Riley Green in there that can really do some damage. As I kind of wrote earlier today, earlier this week I wrote about how, hey, maybe the Royals don't need to make another move, based a little bit on the conversation we had on Sunday, where, hey, maybe they've built enough of a floor in here they can just wait till the trade deadline. And Zips had the Royals and Tigers both projected for about 83 wins, and then adding Valdez brings the Tigers up to 85 wins. So the Royals are no longer tied for division favorites. They are now firmly in second place. That I think you're probably right. I think that that if you were going to replace Skubal with Valdez and you were going to pay Valdez that much, just pay Skubal. Whatever the heck he was asking for, he's better than Valdez. It would have been worth it. So you have them both in there, and you say, now we're serious for the playoffs. And that's kind of what we've been saying about the Royals for most of the offseason, is make one more really big move, really solid move at least, and you're division favorites. And the Tigers became the division favorites by making that one more move. It's frustrating as a Royals fan, but also the postseason, or excuse me, the preseason isn't over yet. The offseason isn't even over yet. The preseason hasn't even really started. The trucks haven't left quite yet. I think we saw some grainy footage from one team is moving around in spring training, but the Royals haven't gotten there yet. There's still plenty of time to make a move. It's funny because I've been listening to Effectively Wild. They had Vinny Pasquantino on an episode, and I fell absolutely in love with the podcast. So I've been listening to it, catching up. And they just had an episode recently where they were talking about which teams haven't made enough moves, and they were talking about the Tigers. Tigers could be the favorites for that division if they just make a move, and they haven't done anything. Well, they did something. And this, I feel like this has been kind of a recurring theme of everyone said, "Oh, the Mets haven't done anything," and then the Mets were like, "Oh, here we've got Bo Bichette, and we've traded for Freddie Peralta." Every time you look at a team and you go, they really should have done more. They've done more because there's still more to do. So I'm not giving up on the Royals yet, but the question, I guess, buried in all of that rambling is, can the Royals still just kind of try and hang on to the trade deadline and see what's available then, or do they really need to go out and make something happen now? Do you think, Max?
Yeah, I think we just mentioned, like, in the last podcast, like, there's still some big free agents out there like Valdez, like, things could still happen. And, yeah, I think, there's still some movement that could be made before camp. But, the Royals answered, they signed Luke Miley today to a minor league deal, so you can't say they're doing nothing, right?
You said, who?
Luke Miley, the catcher.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, so they brought him back. Yeah, so, the Royals, they definitely need to counter this. And, it was interesting last night when the Tigers signed Valdez, that Valdez and Skubal are both left-handed. And, I tweeted out, like, it would be really nice to have a righty masher right now. Yeah. And Miguel Andujar is still out there. And, literally within minutes, Jeff Passan announced that Andujar had signed a 1-year, $4 million deal with the Padres.
Yeah.
So that takes him off the limited free agent market for outfielders. And so not getting Austin Hayes, not getting Miguel Andujar, that's starting to really look like
there's
either they've got something bigger in the works, or they've missed their window to really upgrade this outfield. And they're doing what we talked about last time, is they're just kind of waiting and biding their time and treading water until July, where they hope they can make a better deal.
Yeah, I don't see any more right-handed outfielders. Rob Refsnyder's gone, Harrison Bader's gone, Andujar's gone, Hayes is gone. Adolis Garcia is gone. I mean, you could probably get Nick Castellanos from the Phillies pretty easily, but I don't feel like that's actually worth doing. It's a trade or nothing at this point, I think, and the trade targets aren't that great either. I put out, I tried to kind of follow your lead a little bit with the Miguel Andujar thing, and I'm like, what if the Royals traded Chris Bubich for Ramon Laureano and Adrian Morejon? How would we all feel about that? And I was like, maybe something will happen. Maybe. Nope, nothing happened. Still could happen, but just give me your quick take. How would you feel about that deal? I know I haven't decided if I love that deal. I feel like it fills both of the Royals' current roster holes of here's an everyday right-handed outfield bat and a strong left-handed reliever. And Laureano's only got 1 year left on his deal, but Morejon is still on his rookie deal, so he's cost controlled as well as team controlled.
Yeah, I feel like Bubich for Laureano is a little light, but adding Morejon, adds that lefty reliever that they've been looking for, and like you say, is cost controlled. It's actually been, I think there's some talk about moving him to the rotation at one point.
He was a starter in the minors.
Yeah, so that's a possibility as well. So that's kind of evenish trade. So I don't know if the Padres are even looking to move Laureano. I mean, obviously signing Andujar gives them a little more depth in the outfield, but I don't know. Andujar is probably not a everyday player at this point. So I don't know what the plan is exactly in the outfield. I think the Padres just seem to love building depth, and they do have a lot of injuries a lot of times with their players. Um, my worry is that the Royals see the action out there and panic and make
Yeah.
a bad trade where they trade Bubic for someone who's much less who's not even close to his value, or someone that's maybe got a lot of warts to them, like a huge injury risk, or a guy that's coming off a kind of a poor season, but it was good in the past. So I hope they resist the temptation to do something like that. But I think you're right. I mean, you look at the free agent market. I mean, the only good free agents left are mostly pitchers, like Zac Gallen, Zach Littell. The only hitters are like Marcell Ozuna, who,
Can't
there's
play the field.
if you want to see
Has
the gif
character
of him
issues.
trying to catch a fly ball, it's not pretty. So he can hit home runs, but I don't know if he's
He's
a
also
guy
getting
that's
old.
yeah, and he's had some inconsistent seasons as he's gotten older.
I
So I
was
don't know if
like,
that he'd be a good.
let me take another look at Mike Tauchman. Maybe he's the answer. Oh wait, he's left-handed.
Yeah.
So that's probably not the guy, unfortunately. It is weird to me how well Mike Tauchman hit last year, and nobody seems to want anything to do with him. Not sure what's going on there.
It could be like some of these guys too are looking for playing time. Like I think that's why Austin Hayes
Yeah,
signed with the White Sox, because he was
correct.
like, I can play every day with them, have a good season, and go hit the market next year and really cash in. Whereas maybe the Royals are like, we want you to be a platoon player. So I don't, that factors into it. But yeah, Tauchman, I mean, he's the last couple of years he's been pretty solid on base guy, and he just doesn't really get many offers. So I don't know. He's just kind of an underrated guy, maybe.
Yep. So had the Brendan Donovan trade broke the last time we talked? He's no
I
longer
don't think
available
so.
to the
Yeah.
Royals. He went to Seattle. They gave up Clintja and a few other prospects. That was a huge haul for the Cardinals. I'm not sure that I would have wanted the Royals to top that deal, even if they could. Because
Right.
Clinch he was drafted in the first round as a switch pitcher. Now I know the Mariners were saying, well, he's going to probably just pitch right-handed at least for now. I don't know what the Cardinals are planning to do with him, but the opportunity to have somebody who can pitch as well as he can from both sides of the mound, I guess, since it's not both sides of the plate now, it's both sides of the mound. We've seen switch pitchers in baseball, but never one of his caliber. So he's kind of a one-of-one, really interesting prospect that I would love to have on my team, certainly. So kudos to the Cardinals for getting him. How do you feel about that deal? Are you like, the Royals really missed out, or you like, that's fine, you can do that?
Yeah, well, Ty Pete, the other pitcher in that deal too, I liked him a lot in the draft, and we'll see how the Cardinals develop him, and then they get 2 draft picks out of it, which is really interesting. Is Chaim Bloom tries to rebuild that team, and I think I saw Baseball America already had them ranked as a top 5 farm system this year,
Yeah.
which great job because they weren't in that position last year. This just kind of shows what you can do, the flexibility you have if you have a deep farm system. Like you can go out and make moves where you trade a first round pick, former top 100 prospect, and not feel like you're depleting the farm system because you got a couple other guys in your system who can kind of fill are right behind him. Same with the Tigers. The Tigers, we talk about them losing Skubal and Valdez is, could opt out, early in his contract, but they've got a loaded farm system. They don't have to worry about that too much because they've got so many other guys coming up. And the Royals just aren't at that position. I mean, they've got a system that's still in the bottom third of baseball, making some progress, but certainly not in a position where I think they could have made a competitive offer for Brendan Donovan. And I love Brendan Donovan. A guy that gets on base, can play everywhere. Fan favorite in St. Louis, seems to be one of those guys that just plays the game the right way and does the kind of things you want on a team. But they don't have the horses to get a guy like that. I don't know. The Blake Mitchell has the trade value that coming off the season he had, and David Shields and Kendry Chorio have value. But do you want to? We're not in a position where we feel like we can trade them.
How,
You know,
you got to have them to rebuild.
right? So, you're kind of stuck, and it's nice to trade away Gavin Cross and Frank Mazzucato, but they don't have any trade value. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you're kind of stuck.
Yeah, the Mariners actually, I guess, are being really aggressive with their prospects this offseason because they also traded away Ford. I forget his first name.
Harry Ford.
Harry Ford.
Harrison Ford.
I kept wanting to say Henry, and I'm like, no, that's not right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Harry Ford. So good for them. If I was a Mariners fan, I'd be pretty happy. I know, funny. I guess I'm going to end up referencing Effectively Wild a lot because Meg Rowley over there is a Mariners fan, and she was like, "I wish the Mariners would do a little bit more," but that was before the Donovan trade, so I haven't caught up that far to hear how excited she is about the Donovan trade.
Jerry DiPoto, like, suspiciously quiet up to that point.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying. When they first said that the Mariners were getting close to getting Donovan, but hadn't happened yet, I was like, okay, so this is a complicated trade then. There's probably a third team. Could the Royals have snuck in there and gotten their hands on Randy Arozarena? That would have been nice. It didn't quite work out that way. It was the Rays that jumped in there and took one of their infield prospects, which the Mariners are loaded with infield prospects, so they could afford to give him up. It's just kind of the way it is. The Royals are going to have to really, if they want to be, they've talked about wanting to be the Brewers, but if you want to be the Mariners, you want to be any successful team, you want to be the Blue Jays or the Dodgers even, you've got to have enough prospects. They've said pitching is the currency of baseball. I don't think it is anymore. I think it's prospects are the currency of baseball more than anything. I think we've seen from the Royals were trying to trade their pitchers and nobody was buying. So they need some prospects. Hopefully they're working their way up, but it's going to be probably a couple years before the farm system is really in a position. I mean, you talked last time about maybe the farm system builds up enough by the deadline to be able to start moving some guys from there, but it's hard to build a farm system at any pace other than really slow.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other way to do it is the way the Cardinals are doing it, and just you trade your best players and that you can build up your farm system really quickly that way. But it makes sense where the Royals are, where the Mariners are in the success cycle. That you want to cash in those prospects because we know the failure rate of prospects. I mean, it's nice to see those names and rankings on prospect lists now. But like in writing about prospect lists for 2026, I went back and looked at the prospect lists from 2022, and like Drew Waters ranked very high.
Yep.
Jordan Groshans, who played in AAA for Omaha this year, ranked pretty high. Like you go through the name, about half the guys never really did anything.
Yeah.
And so they'll break your heart. Prospects will break your heart. I did want to touch about one thing you talked about with the Rays, though.
Yeah.
Getting Ben Williamson in that deal is the third base. He's the slick fielding third baseman for the Mariners, a guy that just broke into the big leagues. I don't think he's like a super highly ranked prospect or anything, but the Rays like his defense a lot. They think he's versatile and can play some different positions. But, knowing the Rays, he could turn into a solid player. Maybe he doesn't, but I kind of think like that's the kind of deal at this point the Royals should kind of look for. And the Rays only had to give up their, I think, competitive lottery pick to get him.
Yeah.
But like an outfielder who has maybe played a little bit, but isn't like a super highly ranked or regarded prospect. But the Royals see something in him, like, if we change his swing, or if we do this, if we refine his swing decisions, he can turn into a valuable player for us. Getting Isaac Collins from the Brewers for Angel Zerpa, I think that's the kind of move. And I know some people aren't super excited about that trade, but that could be a huge. If he's a solid player for the next 5 years, that could be a huge trade.
I think people are sleeping on that trade.
What's that?
I really think people are sleeping on that Isaac Collins trade.
Yeah, I agree.
I think people seem to be able to think about is, well, he was benched in the playoffs. He was bad in September allegedly, and then he was benched in the playoffs. I've become convinced that he was actually hurt at the end of September, and that's why he was benched in the playoffs, and that's why he was bad at the end of September. I think he had some kind of injury that it wasn't worth putting him on the IL for, but he wasn't himself. Because even at the beginning of September, he was still good. And one everyone says, well, he's going to regress. The regression numbers. Okay, yeah, the batted ball velocity numbers aren't where you want them to be, but the plate discipline has been consistent his whole career. The numbers are very consistent through the minors up to the big leagues. And he was the fourth guy in Rookie of the Year voting in the National League. I feel like we need to stop talking about him as this outfielder the Brewers didn't want, and holy cow, he was a Rookie of the Year candidate, a serious Rookie of the Year candidate last year. The Royals got him for Angel Serpa. That's a really good trade, and that actually brings me to you said earlier that you were a little worried that the Royals would make a panic move, but the Isaac Collins trade to me is indicative of, and the fact that they didn't sign Profar or Santander last year is indicative of a team. I accused them last year of being too conservative, but I don't think they panic in that way. I think that's something Allard Baird would have done. Right. But I don't think JJ Piccolo and this Royals front office staff, and working with owner John Sherman, who I have plenty of issues with, but I think the way he handles the actual filling of the team is better than most team owners in his position. I would certainly take him over Bob Nutting or the Dolans or the Polads. You know what I'm saying? So I think we're looking at. I'm not too worried about the Royals panicking. I'm a little worried that they won't panic enough more than anything. But I also think, like I said, the Zips projection has the Tigers going to 85. Assuming they keep Skubal, which we both agree that they probably will, but it's not 100% in my head that they will. I know they wanted to pay him a lot less, and one of the things I'd heard was that what they were going to do in free agency depended on whether they won or lost that hearing. But then they did the free agency move, and then they lost the hearing. So that it just puts a little bit of a tickle in my brain that's like, I'm not sure. Of course, if they trade Skubal and get a flock of prospects, they could be a problem for years to come. But I'm worried about 2026 right now.
I think there'll be a problem for years to come. But the other thing is pitchers get hurt. I mean, yeah. I certainly don't wish anyone ill will, but all it takes is a guy landing the wrong way on opening day, and suddenly you're like, we're one down one starter.
We're certainly familiar with that. If we'd had Cole Reagans all year last year, how might 2025 have been different for Kansas City? So yeah, that's probably enough about all of that. So I wanted to really quick touch on a kind of an under the radar move that the Royals have made, a minor league signing of Brandon Drury. So let me just say real quick, Brandon Drury did not play last year, which is always a bad sign for a guy.
Not the major league level. He played in the minors a little bit.
He did not play in the major leagues last year. In 2024, what's that?
He's still not good though.
No,
that's still not good.
2024, he was awful. He slashed 169, 242, 228. In 97 games, so it's not like it was a tiny sample size. 35 WRC plus, but for the 3 seasons before that, with the Mets and the Angels, he had been pretty good. 2 and part of a season in 2021, he'd been pretty good. The reason I bring up Brandon Drury at all is because he is actually someone I was really interested in the Royals getting before the 23 season. I thought if the Angels might be interested in trading him, he would have been someone I was interested in getting. He was also someone that came up, I don't know if you remember, I did an article, like, what happens if I ask AI to fix the Royals? And AI said Brandon Drury, and it gave me a lot of incorrect information about him, but I was like, yeah, Brandon Drury is interesting. You did get that part right, so congratulations, AI. I don't know. I don't expect anything from him at this point, but man, it's just that's how baseball careers go, I guess. A couple years ago, he would have been somebody I was really excited about, and now I'm just whatever. Any thoughts about him that you have?
No, I just say he's had an interesting career. He was a top 100 prospect at one point with the Diamondbacks and kind of bounced around for many years. Like he never really fulfilled his potential with them and just kind of became a journeyman until 2022 with the Reds.
Or the Reds,
And
yeah.
he just went kind of crazy with home runs. Hit 28 home runs that year. Won a Silver Slugger award as a third baseman. And kind of put himself on the map. That landed him a multi-year deal with the Angels, like you said. And he went out and hit 26 home runs that first year with the Angels in 2023, and then just careened off a cliff and did not hit at all in 2024. Last year, he was in camp with the White Sox, and my understanding is he broke his thumb in camp, and that really affected his performance. I think he got released midway through the year. Angels took him back, but he never played in the big leagues last year. So he's a guy, he's 33 at this point, plays second base, plays third base, little first base, right-handed bat, doesn't have a big platoon split though. Probably depth for Omaha. Got the teams, not just the Royals, all these teams make signings like this time of year where, they've got to fill out a spring training roster. Remember, some of these guys are going to be at the World Baseball Classic, so we need guys to play second base and shortstop and third base while some of these other players are gone. But then, maybe he has a chance to make the team. I think last time we talked about, there's a spot probably at the end of the bench for someone like this that you don't need to play him every day, but they need to be ready and be a big league hitter to give you at bats. It's never a bad thing to have some depth at Omaha. They were the level of talent at Omaha last year was pretty bad. They had one of their worst years in quite some time, and they were just cycling in, any major league veteran that was off the street to come play for them. And so it's not a bad idea to have some guys like this in tow. Do I expect him to make the team? Probably not at his age, but we'll see if he has anything left in the tank. He does have power potential, which is nice.
I'd love for there to be just one of those great spring training stories where someone just has an amazing spring training and breaks the season with the club, and you're like, all right, let's go. But I feel like even those stories haven't really worked out. A couple of years ago, it was Jackie Bradley Jr. and Franmil Reyes had really good spring trainings, and we were like, all right, maybe something weird's about to happen here. And it did not. It's just, I don't know.
I feel like the guys that usually are impact players that are non-roster invitees are relievers. Like Ryan Madsen, when we signed him in 2015, like he'd been out of baseball, I think, for like 3 years. And I think it was Jim Fregosi Jr., the scout for the Royals, signed him and convinced him to come out. And he's like, oh, I'm finally healthy again, and is out there firing bullets for a championship team. That's the best case scenario. And in relievers, you need a million of them throughout the year, so there's plenty of opportunities. So, it's not, like I said, it's nice to have some depth, and maybe we'll see him come up for a short stint or something like that. But I think the hope is you don't see him play a whole lot for the Royals this year.
And even on the reliever side, for every Ryan Madsen, you've got a Thomas Hatch, Trevor Richards, or not Trevor Richards. That's the Orioles. I always get there's two Richards. There's one who pitches for the Orioles who's really good, and there's one who pitched for like 6 teams last year who was really
Trevor
bad.
Rogers for the Orioles. Trevor Richards. For the Royals last year, and then the Rogers brothers, Taylor and Tyler, who are twins, for the Twins and Blue Jays now, I believe.
Yes, that's correct. Gosh. Oh, geez.
Too many Taylors in baseball.
Huh?
Too many Taylors, too many Trevors in baseball, I think.
It's funny. I was saw a thing on BlueSky the other day complaining about the number of Mikes in the world, as I often confuse Mike Bauman and Mike Petriello, both baseball writers, one for MLB.com, one for Fangraphs. So too many Taylors, too many Trevors, too many Mikes, too many Marks. Why aren't there more Jeremys and Maxes? That's what I want to know.
Max is trending. I never knew anyone named Max when I was a kid, and now we've got at least a few. So it's building.
Well, at least there was a Max in Stranger Things, so that should boost the name some, right?
There was a thing at the Rockies last year. They had a meetup of Ryans, where just anyone named Ryan could come to the Rockies game, and they had a big meetup. And there was a couple funny stories about it. So if you ever get a chance, look that up. But it's funny they had a big Ryan meetup.
I
And they
will.
said no Bryans, only Ryans.
I'll have to check that out.
This Valentine's Day, celebrate the one you love the most with Hallmark cards at Walgreens. Valentine's Day is the best time to send your favorite person a reminder of just how much they mean to you. A Hallmark card is a super simple and beautiful way to say how grateful you are for the love you two share. Don't forget, Valentine's Day is Saturday, February 14th. Visit Walgreens today to find a Hallmark card that shows just how much you love them. Because love lives here.
All right, so we've started a new series on Royals Review this week. You're kind of leading the way on that, Max. I put up one today asking if the Royals needed to do a move, so we answered that question already. But let's get our answers for the other two questions we've got up this week. So the first one that we put up there, that you put up there, was what trade haunts you in Royals history? And I think you wrote about a trade that haunted you, but give me at least one trade, maybe a couple trades that just have haunted you in your life as a Royals fan.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to do like daily questions to get some, I think the readers have some great feedback and great ideas. So this is just a way to kind of spur discussions. But yeah, so the question this week was like, what trades still haunt you? And I think the Royals have had several regrettable trades throughout their history. So, I mean, I think the first one you got to think of is the David Cone trade, where they traded a local kid from Kansas City who was still a prospect, trade him to the Mets for Ed Hearn, who was, seemed like a promising young catcher. And in all fairness, Cone wasn't like a big prospect. He was kind of wild in the minors. I think he had a knee injury. They were pretty loaded with pitching at the time. This is right after they won the World Series. So you can kind of understand what they're thinking. Ed Hearn had filled in for Gary Carter, looked pretty impressive. But Hearn just couldn't get healthy. He had a lot of injury problems. And David Cone became David Cone, who's one of the best pitchers of his era. Very regrettable trade. Even more regrettable is they brought him back, as a free agent. And after the strike in 94-95, Cone was a big part of the union. He was also a high-priced player. The Royals had to cut costs after the death of the Kaufmans, and decided to trade away Cone for pennies on the dollar to the Blue Jays for two players that never turned out to be anything. And I think that's an even more regrettable trade. So I think those have to be like the two big trades that haunt us the most. I'm curious, you've got probably a little different perspective, maybe from the more recent past. Is there a trade that haunts you in Royals history?
Yeah, those were all before my time. The trade... I think the trade that haunts a lot of more recent Royals fans, and is one of the big ones for me, is the Travis Shaw, Asturi Ruiz, and Matt Strom to the Travis Wood, not Shaw, to the Padres for Cahill, Maurer, and Buchter. I was so excited about that trade at the time, and it just turned out to be an absolute disaster. But the one from between those two eras that still haunts me in more ways than one is the three-team trade that sent Jermaine Dye out of Kansas City and brought back Nafi Perez. Jermaine Dye was one of my favorite players, and Nafi Perez was useless and didn't seem like he even wanted to be out there. It never made sense why they would target him to begin with. They didn't need him. They had Ray Sanchez at shortstop, and so he ended up playing second base for most of that first year, and then he was bad that second year. Or am I confusing him with Unieski Betancourt again?
No, you're right. I think Sanchez was an impending free agent. The Royals have had this weird fetish about, like, we need a shortstop. Like, if we don't have one, like, all the ground balls are going to get to the left. Like, they're like, we literally just need a shortstop. Like, and they have made so many bad decisions. Like, I don't know if you remember the expansion draft in '92 with the Marlins coming into the league, and the Royals protected David Howard, a light-hitting, no-hitting shortstop, instead of Jeff Conine, who looked pretty good in the minors and had power potential. The Howard never did anything as a shortstop. Conine becomes Mr. Marlins, one of the most popular and productive players, multiple All-Stars. And because the Royals were like, well, we need a shortstop. We don't have anyone else. And the same thinking for the Jermaine Dye trade. I agree with that. That haunts me because I remember I was in England studying abroad and we had limited internet access. Kids, this is before the internet was a big thing.
Oh, geez.
So we had like 15 minutes every day we could check internet news back in the States. And I went to ESPN.com and I said, oh, Jermaine Dad got traded. I was kind of hoping we'd re-sign him, but okay, if we get good prospects, sure. And I read 3-team trade with Oakland. I'm like, oh, good. Oakland's got some good prospects. And it says we got Navy Perez. Like, what? Wait, so who else did we get? Clicking like, no, we didn't get anything else. Like, that's it. So, and they didn't save any money. They barely saved any money, like, doing that time when it wasn't even a cost-cutting move because, like, Perez was making, like, a couple $1 million. And, yeah, you're right. He was terrible. Didn't want to be here. Just a horrible, horrible trade that I think still haunts us.
Even back then, the newspaper was like, yeah, by the way, his numbers are all heavily inflated by playing in Colorado. The home road splits are just wild for Navy Perez.
And he was supposed to be a Gold Glover, but he was not one in Kansas City. Like, just a terrible trade. I don't know what they were thinking back then.
Oh, it was brutal. It hurt me so bad. At least, like the other trades, the big outfield trades that were painful in my youth of Johnny Damon and Carlos Beltran. At least the guys that they got back, I was excited about. Maybe I shouldn't have been. I've never been super into prospects, but I was even less into prospects then. But I was like, oh, Mark Tien and John Buck, those are supposed to be pretty good guys. We needed a third baseman. We needed a catcher. All right, let's go. And Angel Baroa. Angel Baroa was Rookie of the Year when the Royals did put him in there. So, once again, needing a shortstop, I guess.
Yeah, you see, that's what I'm telling you.
and it, there were reasons to dream on those trades. Trading Jermaine Dye for Navy Perez, there was nothing to hope about there. It was just awful. That was kind of the low point of my Royals fandom in a lot of ways, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, at least those other guys you mentioned. Tien gave us a couple pretty good years. Buck was decent. Bro, like you said, won Rookie of the Year. Roberto Hernandez, we got in that Damon trade. Like, he at least was okay, like 1 year, and helped solidify the bullpen a little bit. Perez was terrible. He stunk from the start. I think he is up there, like, single season worst WAR season by a Royals player. Like, he was terrible. Yeah. And so, yeah, and you're right. There was no upside there. So it was just a confounding trade in every way.
Yep. And so then the other question we had this week was who most needs to improve for the Royals to be good this year? And I have an answer, but I find my answer boring, so I want you to give me your answer first, Max.
Well, I suspect, I think most people's answer is boring because I hesitated with this question because I'm like, there's an obvious answer, and maybe some people will be contrarian, but it's Jac Caglianone, right? We need him to be, I don't even think he needs to be like a great average hitter, like 220 hitter with 25 bombs. I would take that, at this point, just some steady improvement to become a productive major leaguer. I mean, we'll see what we get out of him on defense, but I think just this year focusing on offense and being a guy that can elevate and hit some bombs, I think that would be huge for this lineup. I mean, I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah, when he's my answer too. When Jacob and I were talking about him, we said something about like maybe the batting average still isn't there, but if he hits 30 home runs, then the Royals could really be going places. And we actually got a comment. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick from listener Aaron, who said, "Good show, guys, but I'll take the under on 30 homers for Jack. He'll have a good season, but that's too big a jump in power." And so I just want to throw out there, he only hit 7 home runs last year, so 30 does seem like a big jump in power, but he only played in 60 games. So if you multiply that out to a full season, that's 21 home runs. And so going from 21 to 30, when a guy who has the power potential of a Jac Caglianone I don't think it's that big of a leap. I mean, it's not a small leap, but it's well within the realm of possibility, I think, for him to get up to 30 home runs. And I think, gosh, I would be so surprised, Max, if he doesn't hit considerably, even if he's still not good, I would be amazed if he doesn't hit considerably better this year for the Royals than he did last year. Are you in that same boat, or are you like, no, I could see him still being pretty bad?
No, I think we talked about this last time. Like all the underlying metrics are positive, and there's a really good article this week at Fangraphs about Caglianone and like kind of what happened his first year and kind of a what can we expect going forward. And I mean, it kind of concludes saying like he's the key to the Royals season, which he is. Like if he's a 25 to 30 home run hitter and stays in the big leagues all year because he's a productive player, the Royals could be right in the mix. And if he's not, the Royals are probably looking at a 500 or worse season. So yeah, he seems like a pretty obvious candidate for like we need him to improve, and we're hinging our hopes on him because they really need that bat in the lineup. I mean, it's like making a big trade if he's a good player. And I think I would take the under on 30 home runs, but I don't think it's crazy to think he could hit the 30 home runs. Also, when you consider they're moving in the fences,
that's the other. That's the other thing is he absolutely, even in that small playing time, had some fly balls that died at the track last year that would be gone this year. In the same weather circumstances, which won't be identical. Blah blah blah. With the Walls coming in, I'll take the over on 30, and we'll come back at the end of the season and we'll see who's right if we remember, which we won't. But I'm going to say it now. So, do you have a second choice other than Jac Caglianone?
Yeah, so my second choice is Seth Lugo.
Okay.
Because I think the strength of the pit is the pitching staff, starting pitching, obviously, but that really requires Lugo being better than he was. I mean, he was disastrous in the second half.
Yeah.
I went to one of his games, I think right after he signed his extension against the Nationals, who were dead last and just fielding a team of has-beens and never-words. And he got
that's the one that sticks in my head.
Yeah, he was guys are just teeing off like they knew what was coming, and it's like, man, what's going on? Like you got an arsenal of 12 pitches. Like, how are you not fooling anyone at all? And they kept insisting there's nothing wrong with him, and hopefully the off season's done him right.
Yeah,
and he's refreshed and ready to contribute and be the guy he was in 2023 or 2024 when he was All-Star and second in Cy Young voting. But they really need him to be not even a top shelf pitcher, but just a really good starting pitcher again.
For sure. And we talked about last time about him participating in the World Baseball Classic, and I did see reports since then that he is not participating in the World Baseball Classic because he's focusing on being healthy for the regular season. So your fears should be allayed, Max. The thing that stood out to me about that Nationals game was that the Royals desperately needed a sweep. And I think they'd lost the first one. They'd won the second one. And they were teeing off on the Nationals starter at the same time. And it's just pull Lugo, and the Royals have a shot in this game. And they sent him out one last time, and it was one time too many, and the offense couldn't come up with it. Oh, that was brutal.
So many opportunities late in the year that they couldn't cash in.
Yeah, I have a couple different ideas in my head that I was thinking of. I think you could make a weird case for Cole Reagans. Better health, I think, is very important for the Royals. But I think my real second place would be probably another guy that a lot of people mentioned, Jonathan India. Because the Royals brought him in to be an OBP guy and to really provide stability. We talked about this last time. I love me a high floor, and he's supposed to offer not a high ceiling but a high floor for that lineup, and he did not last year. If he can get back to even an average batting line, preferably give me like a 105, 110 WRC plus, not superstar, just give me a little something, a little juice. And I feel like that could drastically help out the Royals as well.
I am curious too, like what was up with his defense last year, because he was never a great defender, but he wasn't as bad as he was last year. I mean, he was, I think, the worst defender in baseball last year by outs above average. And so, like, even if he hits, like, is his defense going to drag down his value? So hopefully he bounces back. I mean, maybe he was dealing with some injury that we don't know about. As we've heard a lot about, the adjustment to the American League is difficult and changing teams. And, of course, he had, hit by a pitch early in the season. But, like, it shouldn't impact defense. Maybe the moving positions, impacted him. But, like, his defense shouldn't have fallen off as much as it did. And that's a concern to me going forward.
Well,
the Royals definitely need him to bounce back.
had that thumb or wrist injury or whatever for 8 weeks before he went on the IL for it. So that might have played a part in it too. But hopefully he will look a little bit better this time. And that we got a team Hall of Fame announcement today. Hopefully it's not the only one. But the Royals announced John Wathan is going in. And if you tell me that John Wathan is the only guy, he wasn't even on the fan ballot. If he's the only guy going in the Royals Hall of Fame this year, I am going to be upset. I was upset last year that it was only Alex Gordon. I was upset last year that Gerard Dyson fell off the ballot. And now you're going to look me in my face and tell me Wade Davis, Greg Holland, Kelvin Herrera, Lorenzo Cain, none of those guys can get in this year? So hopefully we're going to hear some more announcements. But John Wathan has been inducted into the Royals Hall of Fame. My time. Did you get to watch any John Wathan?
Not as a player. He was a little before my time as a player. He was manager when I first became a Royals fan. And so, like, he's a lifer, Royals lifer, so I get it. And I thought he was in the Royals Hall of Fame already, to be honest.
He should have been.
It seemed like, he should have been in a long time ago. But he was, like, not a star, and he was barely a starter. And he was kind of the backup catcher, utility guy, really valuable in 1980 when they won a pennant. As a catcher who could steal bases and play a little outfield, play a little first base, and just kind of a good guy to have in the clubhouse, a versatile player. And then when he retired, after he won a title with them in '85, he retired, became a coach, and then manager. And he led the team through some pretty good years. The late '80s, early '90s when they had Bo and George Brett's last couple seasons, and they never made the playoffs, but they were a very competitive team. Got fired in '91, and then kind of became a scout and a broadcaster and worked in the front office. So he should be in the Royals Hall of Fame. I'm not against that at all for sure. But yeah, I think he's going to be the only announcement. I don't know why they would stagger it. And so here's the ballot. Carlos Beltran, Billy Butler, Lorenzo Cain, Wade Davis, Alcides Escobar, Kelvin Herrera, Greg Holland, Joaquin Soria, and Yordano Ventura. I think you can make a decent case for all those guys.
Yeah,
certainly
the weakest case in my mind makes people incredibly angry. But for me, it's Yordano Ventura. I get that he has a tragic story, but he didn't do enough before the tragic story to make me like, yeah, he's got to be in there. But if you put him in there, I'm not going to complain. And that's and I was the same way last year. The only guy I looked at the list last year, the only guy that I didn't think I really felt strongly about putting in, Yordano Ventura was also last year, was Johnny Damon. I was like, Johnny Damon was a very good player, but he did so much for so many other teams that I don't think he really needs to be in the Royals Hall of Fame. The rest of these guys I want in here, and we only got Alex Gordon. What is going on? How is Lorenzo Cain not a first ballot Royals Hall of Famer?
My guess is that it's kind of what happened with the National Baseball Hall of Fame voting a couple years ago, where there were just so many good candidates. They kind of ate away at each other's vote totals, and no one was able to reach the threshold.
That makes sense. And it's not going to get better anytime soon.
Right, because we have so many of these 2015 guys, which I think eventually all of them, I joke, Christian Cologne's going to be in the Royals Hall of Fame. Anyone that had anything to do with that team is going to be in there. Which is fine. I mean, I think the threshold for a team Hall of Fame is much lower than for the National Hall of Fame. It shouldn't be just about stats. It should be about how do they, John Wathan his total career wins above replacement is 5.
Yeah.
It's equal to Mark Teahan. As a player, he didn't make that big of an impact, but he was a member of all their good teams in the 70s and 80s. He was popular player, and he was a coach and a manager and worked in the front office. It makes all the sense in the world to have him in the Royals Hall of Fame. So it's a different kind of threshold. But to not have anyone from the 2014-15 teams seems like a missed opportunity. And not to have Carlos Beltran when he's going in the National Baseball Hall of Fame this year.
That was an argument I was making. I'm like, do y'all really want to be the team that doesn't have Carlos Beltran in your team Hall of Fame when you're like, please put our cap on your head when you get voted into the Baseball Hall of Fame this year? He's not
I
even in
think the
their
Mets
team
are.
Hall of Fame. What are you talking
I
about?
think I think the Mets are putting him in their
Yeah,
club Hall of Fame this year
yeah,
too.
and they're talking about retiring his number potentially.
Yeah. So, which I wouldn't do for the Royals, and I get the Mets over the Royals for his cap,
Sure,
but
I mean, but it makes sense. I think there was an argument, there was a reason for Royals fans to hope for that. I am 100% fine with him taking the Mets cap in there.
yeah, and I get if you don't feel like he should be in the Royals Hall of Fame, I'll listen to that argument, but it would have made sense to. So what happened was there's a veterans committee of some sort with the Royals.
Yes, that's how Wathan got in, I
that
believe.
overrode the fan vote, or maybe no one reached the threshold. So like, we need to have someone in the Royals Hall of Fame, so we'll give it to John Wathan. But if they wanted to override the fan vote, just put Beltran in. Coincide with the Baseball Hall of Fame thing.
They got to figure something out with the way because the voting is brutal right now because they've got 9 guys. They had 9 guys on the ballot last year, 9 guys on the ballot this year. Like we said, you can make even Yordano Ventura and Johnny Damon, who I said I probably wouldn't vote for, even if I had unlimited votes, I would be fine with going in. So you could make a case for all of those guys. You only get 5 votes.
Yeah. And I'm guessing Moose and Hosmer are on next year's ballot.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna do then?
Yeah. Exactly. It's mine. They've got to fix this. And also, I would like some transparency. Can you please tell me what percentage of the votes these guys did get, so that I know, like, okay, he's close. I don't need to stress about it. Maybe next year, or like, oh, he got 10%. What is going on? I'd love to see some of that, but I don't know if we're gonna get it. Okay. Before we move on, though, Jarrod Dyson is my guy that I truly 100% believe he fits that whole criteria of stats don't matter. Jarrod Dyson is a part of Royals forever for everything from being a 50th round draft pick who made it all the way to the big leagues, to the stolen bases, to the important stolen bases. I mean, they don't win the wild card game in 2014 without him. If they don't win the 2014 wild card game, do they do anything in 2015? Do they succeed in 2015? Do they come back when they face the Astros in the division series, if they make it that far, without the knowledge that, hey, we can come back in these drastic circumstances in the playoffs? Are you with me? Jarrod Dyson should be a Royals Hall of Famer, or are you against me?
I think that he's a borderline case, and I think for a club Hall of Fame, anyone that's borderline should probably be in.
There you go.
Like, you just should just have a big hall, celebrate them all. He's part of the Royals' narrative, their story. Yeah, put him in. Let him have his day, and let him have a thing in the Hall of Fame, Royals Hall of Fame. Sure.
He also brings the off the field juice, right? Because he was the he was the they were saying, what were they saying? Somebody was making fun of him on the Orioles. Oh, I forgot the story now. It's such a good story.
The Jeremy Guthrie, these O's aren't royal.
Well, there's that. But there was also one of the Orioles said you got to take. He had the Zoom shaved into the side of his head, Mr. or something like that.
Yeah.
And they were like, you gotta take that out because he got caught stealing or something. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna have to replace it with Broombaya because we're about to sweep you or something like that. Go look up the real story. I promise it was everything in 2014, along with Jeremy Guthrie wearing the O's aren't royal shirt as a former Oriole.
Well, and just Dyson. Imagine Dyson having a Hall of Fame ceremony at the K. It would be great.
Oh my gosh, the speech!
He'd be great at it. Yeah.
I love Jarrod Dyson so much as everything. He was always one of my favorite players, and I'm just counting on the Veterans Committee to right this wrong someday.
Yeah. Maybe someday you and I will have a vote.
Maybe that would be swell. I feel like, hey, we're out here, we're covering this team. We've been doing this I've been doing this for a decade now. You've been doing it for even longer. Come on, get us our media votes already, huh? Yeah. So that. And then I guess one final thing we wanted to talk about a little bit before we move on to our Royals reviews is Royals.tv. I don't think this had been kind of established when we talked on Sunday. So the Royals announced they are leaving FanDuel and that they're doing their own thing with MLB. They're going to call it Royals.tv. It's going to be $20 a month. or what was it, $100 for the full season, I believe.
For in-market fans, yeah.
Yeah, for in-market fans. Out of market, you still do MLB TV. That's what I'll be doing. The weird, frustrating thing is that if you want both in-market streaming of the Royals and all of the other games on MLB.TV, you have to pay for both, which is irritating. At first, I was worried that you had to pay for MLB.TV and then you had to pay for Royals.TV on top of that just to get the Royals games, but thankfully that's not true. I did sit in on a media event, Zoom press conference where Colin Maxey, Royals president of something or other, they have too many presidents and vice presidents, I can't keep track, talked about it, and he said basically you should expect things to stay the same in a lot of ways. They're able to just transfer their national ad deals over from whatever was done with FanDuel. They can bring that just with them. They have to redo the local ones, but they feel confident they're able to do that because they've been selling local ad stuff for all kinds of, all the signs around the stadium and the radio revenue and all that stuff. So they feel pretty good about that. Probably still not going to be on YouTube TV. Still trying to figure out if they're going to be on Amazon again. I think that was a lot of the viewing. It should be on Spectrum again. They're working on all that stuff though. Probably only going to be streaming the spring training games, but I hear that the spring training games might be free. So at least there's that. The big thing, there was one big thing for me. I'll try and remember it. You talk now, Max. Give me your thoughts.
Well, it was funny when we talked on Sunday. Like, it was just after Colin Maxey had said, like, our preference is to stay with FanDuel. But and then like the next day, it's like they were like, we're opting out, and we're gonna create Royals TV. So, but like you said, this has been a long time coming. It's not like they knew, like oh no, we got to scramble to put together Royals TV. This has been in the works for a while, and like you said, for the most part, Royals fans won't notice many changes. It'll be Rex and Ryan and Joel and Monty on the broadcasts.
Same production team too, apparently.
Same production team. It'll probably look substantially similar to what was how FanDuel did it. It'll just be branded Royals TV. It'll be available on many of the same cable and satellite providers, although, like you said, they're still working out the details and all those agreements. But it should show up on your cable box, on probably maybe the same channel, but it'll still show up as like Royals TV on your cable provider. But if you don't have cable, if you're a cord cutter, you can still stream it direct. $19.99 a month, which is what it was last year.
It should be better than whatever the FanDuel. I always heard complaints about the FanDuel experience. I don't live in Kansas City, so I don't know I know Bally. Everyone hates the Bally streaming experience. I think they also hated the FanDuel. It'll be built on MLB.TV, which has been a mostly positive experience as a person who has used it for 20 some odd years now. It's a mostly positive experience using MLB.TV. So the Bally streaming app was terrible the first year, and it got when it was FanDuel last year, it got better. It's still hard to fast forward and rewind, I feel like, but MLB, you're right. It's going to be. I think they're going to be using MLB technology, which will be a plus. The big thing though is the blackout restrictions. That's always the complaint. So like, so you should not be subject to blackout restrictions if you are in the market. If you are in basically Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Iowa, and not St. Louis. If you're not in St. Louis area, you're not going to be subject to blackout restrictions for Royals games. If you have Royals
if
TV.
You get out of market, if you're out of market and you get if you get subscribed, you are not subject to blackout restrictions unless they're playing your local team.
Right.
So if you live in Chicago, the White Sox games there will be blacked out. The Royals White Sox games will be blacked out because they want you to watch, on their local thing. Unless it's some other team that has MLB owns the rights to, like I think the Twins. I think that would still be available. So the whole thing is MLB. Yeah, the whole thing is MLB does not like blackout restrictions. Right? These are a product of the regional sports networks that are like, we want a blackout restriction so that people will pay for our service. But MLB is like, no, we want eyeballs on our product.
Yeah,
we want people to watch. So that's been I think a conflict that has frustrated fans, and I think for the most part will be a thing of the past with the Royals. The other thing is with the Royals, what was the other point I was going to make? No, I forgot it.
Okay, I remembered my thing,
Go
so
ahead.
I'll go while you remember. Also in that press conference, Colin Maxey talked about how MLB likes to try to innovate different things with the teams that are in there. So he was with Arizona in 2025, and Arizona was direct with MLB, and they had wire cam, and they're looking at drone cams. So we might see some different camera angles than we're used to. That might be fun. Might see some different graphics and statistical stuff. Um, Also, I read a story that the Cardinals, who also dropped off of FanDuel, were originally expecting to get 60 million from FanDuel this year. Now they're thinking about 40 million because they have to do the ad selling themselves, so they're not going to quite catch up. But that's not a huge drop in revenue when all is said and done, and it can be recouped over time as they get more used to doing that ad sales themselves. Not going to be a huge loss in terms of money for the team. So that's good news if you're worried about the Royals not spending.
Yeah, that was a point I was going to make, and I'm
Yeah.
glad you raised it. And it sounds like the Royals have anticipated this loss in revenue.
Uh-huh.
And look, they were probably going to have a loss in revenue if they stayed with
Yep.
Main Street, because like Main Street's like, we don't got the money. Like we got to
Right.
renegotiate a new fee here. We don't. It's not here. So they were going to have a drop anyway. So you can understand because they're going to be selling the ads themselves, like you say, and even though they're cutting out the middleman, like these regional sports networks pay inflated prices to get the rights to these teams, because then they can go turn around and say, "Hey, DirecTV, pay us X amount to carry this product, or carry this channel." So that's why it has value to them. So now they cut out the middleman, but that means less money for the Royals. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I mean, I think all these teams, it's a short-term fix. The Royals did say they're going to stay with MLB beyond this year too. They're not like, even if
Yeah,
Main Street.
Colin Maxey said they anticipate staying with MLB. That's what we're doing from now on. So.
Right. Even if Main Street survives somehow, it's like, nah,
Yeah.
we're done. And then I think the anticipation is baseball wants to collect as many rights to teams as they can by 2028, and then offer some sort of like one platform. You can get all these teams like MLS does. That's
that
kind of
will
what
be so
everyone's
good.
hoping. I think the big sticklers is going to be like, what about the big market teams like
Yeah.
Marquee Network with Chicago Cubs, Yes Network with the Yankees, Nesson with the Red Sox, but that's,
Also,
I think,
the
planned.
selling the stuff to ESPN for at least 3 years, it makes things weird.
Yeah, I guess ESPN's going to take over production, but not at least until next year.
Right.
And then I'm curious how that is going to be implemented, whether or not they take over the broadcasts, or they're just going to like administer the production and the production stay the same, but they'll have ESPN resources or ESPN, whatever technology. But we'll have to see that. But that won't be until 2027.
And the
At least.
absolute dream will be the end of the blackout restrictions. Because, again, I'm up here in North Carolina. On opening day, when the Royals face Atlanta, I'm not going to be able to watch legally. So I don't like that. That's not, I'm not in Atlanta. I'm not even in Georgia. I'm literally 5 hours away. Let me watch the gosh darn game, okay? Come on now. And I know in Iowa, you're not anywhere near the Royals, and before this year, you were subject to blackout restrictions on MLB TV. You still are on MLB TV, but now you can get Royal TV at least.
Yeah. That does remind me too that they also announced they're going to have 10 games air free on over-the-air television
Same
in
as
Kansas
last year, I
City
believe.
which they did last year, but this year they're going to include the home opener
Right.
against the Minnesota Twins on March 30th. So, and that game starts, I think it's a Monday, 3 o'clock. But then there's 9 other games that you can watch for free on, I think, KZTV5 in Kansas City. So even if you don't want to subscribe to Royals TV, you'll still be able to watch 10 games for free.
I do believe that Royals TV has a 7-day free trial. If you want to save that up for a week that you're like, this is the week I gotta watch, I can't afford it. I know MLB.TV does free game of the day all throughout the year. And frequently for holidays, we'll do all of you get to Memorial Day weekend and all the games will be the free game of the day. I don't know how that might apply to the Royals. but it's something to keep an eye on. If you're like, man, I really want to watch the game, I don't have Royals TV, you might check and see if it's available for free that day. Again, I don't know how that will work, but it's a dream that I have. I like my dreams. I come up with
another dream I would have is like on off days, stream the Omaha Storm Chasers or the Northwest Arkansas Naturals. I mean, it's available on MLB TV, but if they put it on Royals TV, that'd be pretty neat. Give us a glimpse.
That is 100% a thing that they should do. That was one of the cool changes that they did last year. Was that the minor league teams used to be an add-on you had to pay for, and I never paid for it because I was like, I'm not going to watch enough minor league baseball to justify paying extra for this. But then last year they just said, if you've got MLB TV, you've got MILB TV. Right. And so I was able to watch some minor league ball, especially when Jac Caglianone was in Omaha. And I was like, it's so close. I got to watch.
He hit it over the building out and right. That's so cool.
Oh, my goodness. Baseball can't come soon enough.
Yeah. So I'm curious about is during ad breaks, will we still get to hear the hockey blades going against the ice and the basketball going up? And I don't. Do you get that? The ad breaks, like the weird.
No, I get.
I didn't know if that's everything or everyone.
I get slow motion baseball zen of like someone sweeping the dirt off of home plate. So that's probably what you'll get.
And then the same like 5 ads over and over again, like the kayaking guy, the Miller Lite ad.
Pulling Maxie implied that was probably going to be a thing too.
Yeah.
So, man, there for a while, MLB TV was doing like they would just play highlights of various games throughout history. That was really cool. I liked that a lot. They stopped doing that.
Yeah.
They still do it sometimes, but it'll be like the same 3 highlights from the last week. And I'm like, you've got 100 years of baseball you could be showing highlights from. Come on. And you're showing me slow motion, really amplified sound for some reason of someone dusting off home plate or spraying water on the infield. This is not zen, by the way. This is irritating the way that this sounds now that you've slowed it down and amped up the sound for some reason.
Yeah. At the very least, just put like a shot of like the standings or stats, cool stats, and cycle stats through or something like that.
They did start last year. They did start putting up stats, but the only stat I remember ever seeing was exit velocity numbers and where all Royals stood on a scatter plot of the exit velocity numbers. And I'm like, Hunter Renfroe's exit velocity is up there, but he's not been on the team for 3 weeks. Yeah. I don't why they were team specific. I don't know why you're still showing him to me.
You know what they should do is there's that I think it's John Boy does the game where they show your baseball reference page, but they don't include the name, and you have to guess who it is just based on like their teams and like what their stats were that year. That would be a fun game to play.
In the MLB app, they've got all kinds of games like that.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
It would be just like they do at the movie theater. This is not complicated or time-consuming. Once you have the template, you just plug the text in, and you go. I could fix MLB TV and make it so much better all by myself. If they hire me, I'll do it.
These are $1 million ideas. I love it.
All right, I think we've probably gone on long enough, Max. You got anything else you feel like we need to say about the Royals today?
Just ready for some spring training action. Let's get that footage of guys in Arizona.
Oh, and
see some trucks
Puerto Rico did say they're not pulling out.
They're not going to have any players, it sounds like.
in a social media post, they just posted their logo and not pulling out, and the internet is having a field day with that, as the internet does.
Get your head out of the gutter, guys.
Yeah, so there's that. But yeah. Let's do our Royals reviews. I've got one. Do you have one? You ready?
I've got one too. I actually came prepared.
I'll let you go first, Max.
Okay, so I've really enjoyed HBO's Night of the Seven Kingdoms, the spin-off of Game of Thrones. I was a big Game of Thrones fan. Yeah, it's Adventures of Sir Duncan, who's not. This is couple hundred years before the events of Game of Thrones. It follows the adventures of Sir Duncan and his squire Egg. And it's a decidedly different tone than Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is very serious and very, the scheming, and you need a notepad full of characters to keep track of them all. This is just following these 2 characters, and there's some ancillary characters, and I'm sure we'll be introduced to some more. But it's a very simple story. It's comedic. It's very lighthearted. It's light in tone. It's still violent, but not as violent as the original. But it's a breath of fresh air, and it's not about kings and vying for the throne. It's more about the everyday people that live in medieval times and what life was like, and the simple little desires they have. And I think it's terrific. They're breezy episodes. It's 30 minutes each episode, and it's been really a delight. I love the banter between the two main actors, Egg, the Squire, who's played by a child actor whose name I don't know, but the actors are great, and I've really enjoyed it. And so I'd highly recommend Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
I feel like that's such a smart move to do something in that well-constructed universe of Westeros, but like so very different from what was done before, to just really be like, no, there's room for all kinds of stories here, because it is a well-constructed story universe of intrigue and politics. That's what made Game of Thrones work, was just like the foundation that it had. And Star Wars could take a lesson from that. You don't need to tell the same Star Wars movie over and over again.
Well, yeah, but I think that's where Star Wars has been successful, is when they ease off this is the main story and get into like Andor, which is like an ancillary story, exactly. But it's like, we're just going to show these everyday people. And The Mandalorian's a little bit like that too. We're just showing everyday people and not having the stakes the whole universe isn't at stake.
Right. So my review this week is, I'll just say right now, it's not a good review. It is Stranger Things Season 5. I finally finished that. And man, that was brutal. Have you watched Season 5 of Stranger Things, Max?
I watched the first 4, and my interest kept falling off each season, so I have not made it to 5, and I'm not sure I'm going to.
Yeah, I am a completionist. Once I start something, I feel a desperate need to finish it. And I had the same issue. Loved the first 2 seasons, really still liked the 3rd season. The 4th season, I was just kind of like, okay, fine. And before I even started the 5th season, I figured I probably wasn't going to like it, which made me hopeful, because if I go into something going, I'm not going to like this, it doesn't have to be very good for me to still get some enjoyment out of it. I still didn't get any enjoyment out of it. My biggest complaints are that I went from the first couple seasons of Stranger Things were like, this is what I remember it feeling like to live in the Midwest in the 80s. This is what I remember being the TV representation of the 80s. Like, this feels like really in tune with the era. And by season 5, I no longer felt in tune with the era. I felt like we were just name dropping things from the 80s. Like, oh, here, Janet Jackson. I have a CD of Janet Jackson, or not a CD, a record of Janet Jackson, because she was in the 80s, and you all recognize her from the 80s. Isn't that great? We're talking about the 80s. And then the finale was just the most brutal thing. Series finales are always hard to do. It is really hard to end a story, especially a long-running story like a TV series. And this is still perhaps the worst example of one I've ever seen. It's 2 hours long, which I feel like was kind of mandated by Netflix a little bit. Because about 45 minutes in, I'm like, okay, we're good. We're done. We've done everything we need to do. So I looked at I'm like, man, that didn't feel like 2 hours. So I checked the timeline. I've got another hour and 15 minutes? What are we going to do for an hour and 15 minutes? The answer is a lot of exposition about the future. And it's like, I grew up in the 80s that I grew up in, you'd get to the end of a story like that, and you'd have like some freeze frames of like a paragraph of like, so-and-so grew up to be a lawyer and did such and such, and they're happy, and whatever. And I'm like, do that. That would be very 80s. They did not. They found the most convoluted way of saying that out loud for an hour and 15 minutes for every single character you ever met in Stranger Things.
So do you think they're not done then?
That's
the
done.
Theory is like
they're done with
they're gonna have another
the main
one.
Stranger Things. They've already announced I think they announced a Nancy spinoff, and they announced a cartoon spin-off that takes place in between a couple of the seasons. So they're not done with Stranger Things, the universe, but they are thankfully done with the main series, and I don't have to start any of the other stuff. It was just, there was nothing interesting. Like, so much of the first few seasons, there was so much interest of, like, who is doing this? Why are they doing it? What is even happening? And by this one, I knew what was happening. I knew who was doing it. I knew why they were doing it. And they just would stop every 10 minutes and do some exposition of, this salt shaker is this person, and this pepper shaker is this person, and they want to do this, and they want to do that, and they're stopping them by doing this. And it's like, okay, I get that that's an iconic way of doing some exposition. You do it 3 times in an episode, and that's too much. You can't do it that many times. Just really brutal storytelling of proportions that I cannot recommend the show. If you were not already very interested, I watch things that I don't like sometimes because I'm like, well, I want to at least see, like, I don't like it, but maybe there's something I can glean here that's like, oh, that was really good. Or oh, this is why this was bad. It was just so, I really feel like they ran out of creative juice before they ever got to season 5. So, I don't know. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I didn't think it was good at all. And I do draw a distinction between what I like and what is good. So
I really appreciate now, like, the limited series now. Like, there's just,
yeah.
We're going to do 1 season and that's it.
Well,
or 2 seasons and that's it.
I think you can do longer stuff, but you have to set it up more open-ended. Like, the TV shows when I was a kid were so episodic. Like, you watch Star Trek The Next Generation, and it's got 26 episodes a season. But they weren't going anywhere. They were just living in the universe in a way that you could just write infinite stories about that. And with everything being so serialized, there is a need to know where you're going and how you're going to get there. And I don't think that people always do that. I think one example I like to bring up is Lost, where I feel like that series went way beyond what J.J. Abrams had any plans for, didn't know what to do with. I think it's what hurt Game of Thrones in a lot of ways, was that they caught up to the books, and they didn't really, and George R.R. Martin, the creator of the whole thing, doesn't really know how to get to where he's trying to go at the end, and they ran out of steam. So there's an importance to knowing the end, which to bring some positivity back in here. Excuse me, I've mentioned the Silo a couple of times on here. And the Silo has 2 seasons out. The 3rd season is supposed to come out soon. It will end after the 4th season. They already know we're done with this after the 4th season, and they're adapting 3 books. So 4 seasons, I think, about fits that. I'm really excited about it. And another thing I'm really excited about is Apple's deal with Brandon Sanderson to adapt his entire Cosmere, which is all of his adult novels, basically. And he gets so much creative control, and I've loved so much of what Apple has done that I feel like it's a match made in heaven. It's peanut butter and chocolate. I can't wait. I'm going to have to wait for several years before the first thing even comes out. But there's a little bit of positivity after whining about Stranger Things for 10 minutes. All right. I think that's going to do it for us today. Gosh, I still need to get that book that you told me about last time and read that.
Oh, yeah. The Jason Pargin, I'm starting to worry about this Black Box of Doom.
Yeah.
I'll shoot you an email.
Shoot me an email so I don't forget this time, because I need that in my life. And I think that's going to do it for us next week. Like I said, hopefully Jacob will be back with us on on Sunday, Monday air. And in the meantime, you can always check Royals Review for the latest news, information, and now daily fun questions. So go check us out there. And until next time, go Royals!
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.